Okay, so this starts part 2 of our lesson on 13.2 slope. And in example 4, we're looking specifically at parallel lines. And the key here is, do the lines have the same slope? If they have the same slope, they're parallel. All right, so since I have a graph to look at, I'm going to count rise over run. You could use ordered pairs, but to me, counting rise over run is easier. So let's start with the blue line. Okay, count your rise over your run on the blue line. Find your slope. All right, so this is kind of a review from yesterday also. All right, so for the blue line, what is my rise?
4.
4.
Negative 4.
No, it's positive, left to right. It's going up, left to right. Remember, read it left to right. Okay, so m equals 4 over what? 1, or at that point, if it's 4 over 1, it can just be 4. So I would say 4 or 4 over 1, okay? All right, now let's look at the red line. Let's look at the red line and try to figure out the slope for the red line. All right, and this is another reminder, we use the variable m to stand for slope. I don't know if I specifically said that yesterday, I can't remember. So that's really important, so I'm telling you now. All right, m stands for slope. I know that that sounds a little weird, like there's no m in the word slope, but it stands for slope, okay? And that's actually pretty significant. All right, so what's my rise on my red line? 5. I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I go over how many? 1. M equals 5 or 5 over 1. So I'm matching my font to the color of the line, if you haven't caught on. All right, 5 over 1. So are those parallel?
No.
Nope. One's 4 and one's 5. They're not parallel. But then I got my green one. So if my green one is either 4 or 5, then it's going to be parallel. All right, let's see what the green one is. What's my green slope, guys?
4.
4 or 4 over 1. So based on the information that I've gathered, which lines are parallel?
Blue and green.
Blue and green. Oh, and that kind of overlapped because I wrote the fraction. So I'm going to say blue and green. Blue and green. All right. Okay, just kind of reading a graph. Any questions? Okay, next slide. It's more parallel lines, but now I have these like equations, I guess, because there's an equal sign, but there's only one number, so I have to remember what happens, and we graphed these. These were like the really fun graphs, right? Because we didn't have to do a table. You guys remember these?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we do have to visualize, because I'm not going to make you do a graph on these, what kind of lines these are, okay? So on a graph, if I followed the value y equals -4, I would go down to -4, plot my point, and remember what we said about plotting these points. If I plot it on the y-axis, the line goes horizontal. It goes in the opposite direction of the axis. Okay, so does everybody agree y equals -4 is a horizontal line? Okay, now let's picture graphing this one, y equals 2. Now I go up to a y value 2, plot my point, and which way does my line go? Horizontal again. So both of these lines are what? Horizontal, which means they are parallel. 2 horizontal lines would make them parallel. So I would say yes, and you got to name it. So yes is the answer of are they parallel, but you got to name it horizontal lines. Horizontal lines. Okay, so based on what we just said here, I want you to try to answer this one. Yes or no, are they parallel? And if so, what kind of lines are they?
Yes.
It is yes, and what kind of lines are they?
Vertical.
Yes, vertical lines. Okay, you got a whole homework section. Guys, and you don't spell vertical like this. I see that a lot. I'm not making fun. I see that a lot, okay? It's vertical, all right? I know this is an English class, but we do want to spell right. All right, what about this last one? What about this last one? Don't say it out loud. Go ahead and answer it if you haven't already. All right, y equals 5 and x equals 2. What do you think, guys?
No.
No, because one line is horizontal and one is vertical. So one horizontal, it'll take you longer to write the answer, and one vertical line. Okay? Oh, singular. All right, any questions? Okay, good. All right, so now example 5, and good news. Oh, don't we love seeing that black screen?
Yes.
Okay, one slide left. One slide left. All right, so the finish line is in sight. I need to now interpret my slope. In order to interpret, guys, you have to be able to understand what is happening in the problem. The table shows, okay, so you have 2 problems on your homework tonight that's just straight up the table, okay? You might have a quiz question tomorrow, though, that is a table with a scenario. So it's important that you understand both. The table shows the distance in miles. That is which value? The distance in miles. That's my y value. It's important on the interpretation that you understand what y stands for. All of these numbers here, so whatever the category is, now all these numbers in the y category stand for what? Miles. They stand for miles, okay? You see how easy it was to make that connection once we kind of showed you. So now whatever category I give you, that's how you look at those numbers now. Are you looking at them differently now? 8 miles, 6 miles, 4 miles, and 2 miles, okay? So let's keep reading. So it shows the distance of a space probe from a comet as it begins its approach. In how many minutes? What does it say? In x minutes. So now all of my x values stand for minutes, okay? So as the space probe is approaching, points in the table lie on a line. Find and interpret the slope of the line. First thing I need to do is find the slope. I do that by pulling out my ordered pairs. I have 1 set, 2, 3, and 4. It does not matter which ones you pull out as long as they are back to back. And how many did I need yesterday to find slope? 2. I needed 2 sets, okay? So for me, I just like doing the same thing every time. I pick the first 2, okay? If you like mixing it up, pick the second 2 or the third and the fourth. Here's what you can't do. You can't pick, why isn't that erasing? You can't pick the first and the last. That won't work, okay? Technically, they would reduce, I think, 10 minus 1. Yeah, you just want them next to each other in sequence, okay, just to be on the safe side. All right, so I picked the first 2. Let's stick with the first 2 so everybody's doing the same ones this time. You could pick others as long as they're back to back. Okay, so let's go 1, 8 and 4, 6. I just pulled out those ordered pairs out of the table. You'll need to do this on a couple problems tonight. Okay, now this is what you did last night on your homework. X1, Y1, X2, Y2. How many of you would say, I know the sequence fairly well? The sequence, the X1, Y1, X2, Y2. All right, so hopefully you're learning that, okay, and getting better. Anybody have the formula memorized yet? Y2, say it with me, minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. Oh, wasn't so bad, was it? Okay, it kind of has like this rhythm to it that makes it easy to memorize. So, which one is my Y2 value? Sorry, I keep coughing. Yes, 6 minus.
8.
Yep, minus 8 over.
4 minus 1.
Very good. 4 minus 1. So now I subtract. 6 minus 8 is negative 2 over 4 minus 1 is 3. So what does this mean? What does this mean? Go back to your labels for X and Y. Look at the sign. connected to 2. What does this mean in reference to the scenario that we're looking at? That's what the interpret is. What does it mean? Okay, I heard it. -2 what? -2, name it. No, not minutes.
Oh, why?
That's y. Remember, the top one is y, guys. The top one's y. So it's -2 miles. Okay, and the 3 stands for minutes. So now I need to put this into a sentence. Okay, remember, the comet's approaching. So the distance between the comet and the spacecraft, space probe, the distance between the comet and the space probe, so sorry I wrote it opposite, but same thing, decreases. How did I know it was decreasing? Negative. Decreases by 2 miles every how many minutes? 3 minutes. That's going to take a little bit of practice, okay? But can you see the connection here? Can you see how we went back and we named the category? We said, yeah, that 2, that's my y value. That stands for miles, so that means the distance between them is decreasing by 2 miles every 3 minutes. And can you see that pattern in the table? 8, 6, 4, 2. Can you see how y is decreasing by 2? And can you see how x is increasing by 3? You see that? So basically what you're doing is you're telling me what the pattern is there, and you're showing it in the slope. That's what slope is. That's your rate of change. All right, that's what we're talking about. And if you can make that connection, then you really are kind of on this top level of understanding when it comes to slope. You're not just plugging numbers into a formula. You understand what those numbers mean, okay? And that's really where we want to get you guys, okay? So great job today. We've got a few questions on homework that we're going to get started on now, and kind of try to troubleshoot any questions that might come up. All right, and that's it for your lesson.